Okay.
All right, this is going to be Q&A, test number one at 120 words a minute. Proper names are Mr. Percy, Mike Morris, Trinidad Operators Inc., Michael Percy, Trinidad, Tony Mack, William Keller, Galveston, Texas. Okay. Mr. Percy, my name is Mike Morris, and I represent Trinidad Operators Inc. in a lawsuit that you have filed against your employer. Could you please state your full name for the record?
Michael Percy.
Do you go by any other names besides Michael Percy?
No, sir.
Do you go by any nicknames?
No.
I understand at the time of your accident you were a captain for Trinidad. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
As a captain, you were responsible for the safety of the vessel and its crew. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You would agree with me that a good, careful policy in working on crew boats would be to watch where you are walking. Is that correct?
Correct. I would agree with that.
In fact, you would probably instruct other crew members who came on your boat to watch where they are walking. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
What I would like for you to do for me initially is describe for me in your own words how this accident occurred.
How this accident occurred?
Right, the accident you are alleging occurred.
I see. I was sitting at the table eating supper, and Tony Mack came in and opened up the hatch to accomplish some repair on the water system in there, and he had departed to go and get tools. And he didn't inform me that he opened it, and I didn't hear him open it. It's situated behind me. It was kind of to the right and behind me, behind the chair. When I finished eating, I was going to retire to bed. And so I went to put my dish up, and I was holding my dish in front of me. Eventually, I turned around and I stepped in the hole and landed on my right foot in that hole, particularly in the bottom of the hole. William Keller helped me out of the hole.
Did you say his name was William Keller?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Do you remember the date of your accident?
I'm not positive of the date. I know he was on the boat when it happened. It could have been the 29th or 30th. I looked at the logs on the 1st, October the 1st. His name didn't appear to be on there.
If I told you it was October 1st, would you have any reason to disagree with me?
The only reason would be that Keller's name wasn't on the logs, and I know that he was present.
It was somewhere in that neighborhood, though.
I don't remember the exact date.
Do you remember what time it happened?
An approximate time?
What was the approximate time?
It was late at night, approximately 10 o'clock. That's the same thing as I said in the statement.
The vessel was at the dock?
Yes, sir, it is.
Where is the dock approximately?
In Galveston, Texas.
You were in calm waters?
Yes, sir. We were in calm waters at that time.
The seas played no role in this whatsoever. The sea conditions?
No, sir, they didn't.
The accident occurred in the galley. Is that right?
Yes, sir, it did.
What I've done to save us some considerable time is requested a friend of mine who's kind of an artist, to draw a picture of what I think the galley looks like. The first thing I would like you to do is take a look at that photograph and tell me if it appears to be accurate.
I believe so.
Now, using this drawing, because we can, all right, this will be your test number 2, 120 Q&A, test number 2. Proper names: Edna Wells, Howard Street, Boston, Massachusetts; Dr. Jones, President Jackson; Europe, Greek, Queen Mary; New Jersey, Atlantic, Panama Canal; Pacific, West Coast; and Ms. Butler. Will you state your name and address, please?
Edna Wells, 54 Howard Street, Boston, Massachusetts.
Would you give us your date of birth, please?
October 20, 1987.
What is your occupation?
I have none.
With whom do you make your home?
I am all by myself.
Is it a single home that you occupy?
No, I am in a duplex house.
And how many rooms do you occupy?
6.
You occupy that by yourself.
Yes.
Do you own the other half too?
Yes, I own the whole house.
Do you have a maid of any kind?
No, I do not.
No help at all?
No.
Do you have any usual activities? Are you a member of any associations or clubs or anything of that kind?
Yes, I have several. I am on a visiting committee from the church and also take an active part in that.
Do you own any other real estate?
No.
Do you drive a car?
Yes.
Who is your family doctor?
Dr. Jones.
For how long has he been your family doctor?
20 years.
Now, had you done any traveling of any nature prior to the time you went on board the President Jackson?
Yes. I have had a trip to Europe.
By sea?
Yes.
What ship did you go on?
Well, the ship I went over is on one I don't even remember the name of. It is so long ago. It was a Greek ship.
Was this a long time ago?
10 years ago. I came back on the Queen Mary.
Where did you first go on board the President Jackson?
In New Jersey.
And you had taken passage for a trip to where?
Around the world back to New Jersey.
Now, did you make this trip with anyone?
No, alone.
How long beforehand had you made the arrangements?
Well, I think I started in November or December of the previous year trying to get arrangements to see what was possible.
Did you have someone who shared your room?
No, I had a single room.
For how long were you on the vessel altogether?
Of course, there were trips on land.
I mean, over what elapsed period of time?
About 3 months, I would say, a little more.
How long were you on the vessel before you were hurt? That is, from what date to what date?
Well, it all happened on the 16th of May, just that one day. We had got off the ship and got back on, so it was just that one day.
What was the date you first went on the vessel at New Jersey?
I think it was either the 26th or the 28th of February. I am not sure.
And where did the vessel go first? Did it go across the Atlantic?
No, I went through the Panama Canal.
To the Pacific?
Yes, to the West Coast.
Had you gone ashore with someone else in Naples?
Yes,
Who was that?
Miss Butler.
And is she someone you had come to know during the voyage?
Yes,
Was she a young woman or more about your age?
a little bit younger than I was.
Do you know what her normal occupation was?
She was retiring or she had retired.
What time did you return to the vessel at Naples on May 16th?
I don't know the exact time, but it was in the late afternoon between 4:30 and 5:30, somewhere around there.
Were you in company with Miss Butler?
Yes,
Was anyone else with you?
no,
What kind of pier was the Okay. Next will be the Q&A test number 1 at 100 words a minute. And the proper names are Gangway and Miss Butler.
it continues.
As you approached the gangway, did you notice anything different about it at that time from the time you had gone ashore?
No,
Where was the platform that you referred to when you came back?
it was evidently resting on the dock.
Can you tell us from your observation?
I didn't look, just stepped on it.
You did look at it when you stepped on it?
As you would any place that you are walking on. But I didn't give any special observation.
But from your best recollection, it appeared to be resting on the pier.
It appeared to be resting there.
What was the distance between the platform and the edge of the pier itself towards the water?
I didn't see. I really didn't notice.
Was anyone else with you besides Miss Butler?
No, not at the time.
And how was the weather?
Beautiful day.
It was still daylight.
Yes.
Had you had any particular orders as to when you were due back on the ship or when you were to return?
No.
What time was the evening meal?
Usually around 6:30.
Now, as you approached the gangway, what activities were taking place on the vessel?
I assume they were moving cargo.
You don't remember whether they were discharging or loading?
No, because there was both going on.
You don't remember whether they were discharging or loading?
No, because there was both going on.
You don't remember whether there was any cargo activity or not specifically?
I didn't notice anything special, but there were a lot of men working around there. So they evidently were doing something, taking cargo and taking off cargo.
As you approached the gangway, who went first?
Miss Butler,
Were you carrying anything?
I was carrying a basket, a hand basket.
Were you also carrying a handbag?
No, I had everything in the basket.
What was the size of the basket you were carrying?
About like that. I should say probably 12 by 10 or something. About that big and deep. A combination handbag and basket.
What did you have in the basket, just generally?
Purchases I had made.
Were you talking with Miss Butler as you went up the gangway?
I don't recall.
Did the gangway have sides?
Yes. Rope sides.
Were you holding on the ropes as you went up the gangway?
I started to hold on. I grabbed it with my right hand.
Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I am right-handed.
When you say you started to hold on, tell us what you mean by that.
I started up the gangway, and at that time, the platform had gone off. So it tossed me around, and I got a hold of the platform rail and held on that.
What was the size of the platform?
It is hard to say. Do you want it in feet?
All right.
I would say it was probably the width of this table.
Can you give us in feet because it has, okay. Now this will be Q&A test number 2 at 100 words a minute. Proper names: Officer Driffon, Diana Foster, Leroy, Mr. Schumann, Leroy Schumann. What was his demeanor at the time?
He was very sedate.
Did you notice any marks on his body?
No,
Did he have any groceries with him?
no, not that I recall.
Did he have any bruises around his face that you noticed?
No,
Did you talk to Officer Driffon when you got there?
I'm sure we had some conversation.
Do you recall what it was about?
No, I don't.
How long were you at the scene?
I'm not too sure. Maybe 15 or 20 minutes.
Have you ever heard of somebody named Diana Foster?
I can't say I recall that name. I think he had a girlfriend, though.
Was she at the scene of the incident?
Yes, she was.
What was her demeanor at the scene?
She was extremely angry.
Did she say anything to you when you saw her?
She had a lot to say about his court case.
Did she say he had already been to court on that case?
I don't remember that. She accused me of picking on Leroy, but I don't recall much else.
Is it not true that she told you he had already been to court and arraigned on that case?
It's possible that she did, but I don't recall.
Do you recall anything else she said to you at the scene?
I only recall that she said some things about his case, but I don't recall the words.
Did you talk to anyone else at the scene?
There were quite a few people milling around, but I don't recall having a conversation with them.
Do you recall anyone at the scene saying that Leroy had already been to court on that warrant?
I don't recall.
Had you asked Officer Driffon why Mr. Schumann was being arrested?
I'm sure we talked about it, but I don't recall the conversation word for word.
Isn't it true that you ordered Diana Foster away from the scene?
If that's his girlfriend, yes, I did. That is true.
After she was told to leave, did she do so?
Not right away. She hung around for another 5 minutes before she left.
Did you have to forcibly remove her from the scene?
No,
Was there anyone in the crowd who was violent toward you in some way?
the crowd was getting kind of wild at one point, but not physically violent.
In what way were they getting wild, as you say?
They were making a lot of noise, and there was a lot of confusion at the scene.
How long were you there at the scene in total?
Maybe 20 minutes, something like that.
Did you leave the scene before Officer Drefon did?
I believe that we left at the same time.
Was the next time you came in contact with Leroy Schumann on the day of the arrest?
I think the next time was when I gave him a citation.
Do you remember what the citation was for?
I believe it was for lack of current